Okay, so anything you can say will be held against you from this point forward. It's on, everything's on tape. Another person too had some issues about coming back and forth, so we'll give them another couple of minutes. I'm getting impatient, so I want to get going. Janelle, did you get my message about your pictures?
Yes, I did. I posted
Okay.
it today on the discussion.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm having trouble understanding Brightspace to some extent too. So it's been certainly was no problem.
Okay. Yeah, it took me a second to figure out like how to reply to people and
It's a
post.
little clumsy. Yeah, it's a little clumsy.
Yeah, but I figured it out.
When I
Hopefully.
tried, maybe somebody knows the answer to this, and I just automatically thought I had uploaded a couple of PowerPoints, and I realized that they didn't. I mean, the slides are up, the text of the PowerPoint is up, but none of the graphics is up. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that. So I'm going to email them to everybody rather than upload to Brightspace until I figure out what I'm doing wrong. Does anyone have any? No, let's wait for let's give everybody another 2-3 minutes. And somebody else has to be my Jiminy Cricket. One of you just don't raise your hand, but just silently volunteer to tell me when it's 6 o'clock, because I will forget that in a blink of an eye. So at 6 o'clock, we're going to just flip terms, and I'm going to make that last half hour of the class for the next couple of weeks, maybe throughout the semester, but at least for the next couple of weeks to get you all on the right direction for the APA assignment. So just remind me, because I'm sure I'll forget. We're going to start. I know people just have to come find us. Okay. I'm going to bring now. I've uploaded this to Brightspace, so but you don't have. That's just, well, you may want to for your own sake, but I also have it on my desktop. So I'm going to share the lesson agenda, so to speak. And you know that the lesson agenda from last week is pretty much the same as this week, or the other way around, because we didn't get too much content done. We're so busy trying to get you squared away on any number of what I call housekeeping issues. But there are some differences. So when you go into Brightspace, I won't bring it up yet. You'll find that the additions in Brightspace of what I call modules is the second week agenda. I put up, like I said, a PowerPoint about FBCL, Futures-Based Change Leadership, and I didn't like the way it looks, so I have it on my desktop, and I'll find a way to send it to you down the line. And the third thing was a PowerPoint called Excavation, which is about, I'm going to pull that up very quickly, actually, which is about culture, history, culture, organizational culture. So the only 3 extra things that I put up in there that I could recall anyway. So here we go. I'm going to share the agenda screen for a little bit. And then I'm going to put you right into groups to start talking to each other. But before you talk to each other, I got to show you the. In fact, let's do that first. Hit the roll one. Okay, we're getting there. Okay. Okay, I apologize. Sometimes I recycle PowerPoints too, or material. I don't. If I think it matches up with what we need to do, we do that. So here's what we're going to do straight away. I'm going to talk quickly because I don't want to belabor the time frames we have in front of us. But the first thing, we'll do this at least for the first several sessions, if not throughout the rest of the semester. First several minutes, 15 minutes or so, I'm going to put you right into breakout rooms and give you something to do usually has to do with the discussion question. So now the next discussion question that's changed in the Brightspace for this coming week, from this week into next week, is for you to try to figure out take that back. Never mind. That's different. I'm thinking of a different class and a different assignment. Tonight, what we're going to do is almost all of you, not all of you, but most of you responded to the pictures that you posted. I was intrigued by a lot of the ones that you put up. I thought they were very thoughtful, and I was actually kind of encouraged by what they were. I had asked you not to comment to them. A couple of you did, and that's on me. I probably didn't make that clear enough, and it's not the end of the world if you did it. What I'm going to do now is just put you into two in a moment. I'm going to put you into two groups, not necessarily the same ones I put you in last week. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to follow the same premise. Except this time now you're going to reveal what your picture meant. You don't have to bring the picture up necessarily. That's probably too hard to do electronically. But you should begin to think about what you thought those pictures truly meant about the culture of the school that you have posted. However, before that, you need to be a little bit better schooled by me on this whole culture premise, and we'll come back to this. I promise you, throughout the whole semester. So, as I said a few minutes ago, this is a recycled PowerPoint. It's not specifically directed to this class, and so there's some differences here along the way. But essentially, this PowerPoint, which I'm going to email you again, you have it in Brightspace, but without the graphics and some of the charts, if I'm not mistaken. Really, I want to show you one thing more particularly than anything else. So, the title of this was that we've always done it this way: an archaeological excavation of an organization's culture. When you talk about the term culture with a small c, and we're not talking about diversity now. That premise. We're talking about the culture as in what do people do in an organization? What's important to them about what's in the organization based on the artifacts that you took picture, or the pictures that you sent us each other, and most importantly, what it truly means about the basic beliefs and assumptions that make that culture roll. As I said to you last week, every group who's with each other for more than 5 minutes begins to develop a culture. That's true for your families. That's true for the faculty room that you hang out in. That's true for any team that you're on. They all have silent ways of doing things because of things that they silently agree to so deeply that they don't feel the need to tell them, to explain them until something violates it, and then they might get involved with that. There's a couple of ways to evaluate culture. What we're doing now is what's called an ethnographic approach. When some of you down the line, I can't predict when, but I think I can say that some of you will, we go for your doctorate in leadership. And I would recommend that you always think about that. You may not be the first thing that you're thinking about this moment. Well, you'll learn more about ways to analyze what a culture is about. We're using what's called an ethnographic one. Now, there's a book that none of you I don't think I've heard of. It's by, I can't remember her name, but it'll come to me in a moment. Margaret Mead, M-E-A-D, wrote a book in the 1930s. Yes, even before I was born. And her book was Living Among the Samoans. And what she did was in the 1920s and 30s was she went to the island of Samoa and lived in the villages of the people in Samoa, where in those places, in those days, was really one step above the Stone Age in terms of their experiences with the outside world. And having lived with them, she turned around and wrote a book about their culture as such. Another woman whose last name I don't even remember, Jane Goodall, lived with gorillas and did something like that as well. But the people who essentially live in another foreign country will come back often and write about the culture of whichever country that they're living in, how it's different from ours. Another way to do it is to look at an archaeological dig. So in this case, we're doing a mini. When I do this ordinarily in a consult, I take days and hours and days to do what we're going to do in 15 minutes. But so I kind of just want to wet your whistle on it so that you get more ingrained with the premise. And that's what this PowerPoint is about. But particularly, I want to concentrate on one slide. As soon as I figure out how to get it open. We talked about the lobster already. This premise is really important. If you're ever looking for something to read when you have nothing to do, look up this author, Peter Drucker, written any number of books about leadership that are really wonderful books to consider about all the ideas behind what leadership has evolved to by way of research. But here's one simple slogan, and that is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you're going to attach what meaning you think that signifies. I will tell you where I come from on that. Everything is about culture. The more nearly you understand the culture that you lead and that you understand, you get your arms around all of the pieces of that culture, the more successful you're going to be to change it if you need to change it, or certainly to adapt and work from and with it as such. Culture is strategy for breakfast. I love that. I'm going to make a bumper sticker out of that one of these days. And really, this is the only thing I need to talk about specifically for the moment. Then I'll come out of this PowerPoint. And that is Edgar Schein. I think I mentioned last week that Schein is still a very active theoretical and practical thinker in the world of organizations, not schools specifically, but organizations. And what he came up with out of a landmark book called Organizational Culture, curiously enough. And what he did was he divided culture, the pieces of how we analyze a culture into three parts, starting from the top down. So that lobster claw I spoke about last week was an artifact, something that represents the culture of that school district at the time. The pictures that you took, a lot of you took pictures of vision statements or different graphics that seem to be dominating in your school systems, are artifacts, the metaphorical artifacts of deeper premises as such. So working from that, the top level, what Schein would call the shallow level, would be those artifacts, those pictures that you looked at over this past week. The middle level is what values they suggest. Quick example, I may have told you this already. When I left a principalship to move up to central office, my building had a drop everything and read program place that was inviolable. The teachers created it. I put it in place for them because they wanted it, because they thought it was the most important thing they could do. And when the person who came in behind me came in, I think I told you this last week, she couldn't fit it into the schedule. I couldn't. I was having trouble that particular year before I had left, and she just knocked it out. Just took it out, took out the scheduling for that. And she took a lot of heat for that for a long time, because she violated the values of the building without even really knowing. She didn't do it on purpose, but without even knowing it as such. And I'm sure you can think of times when people have made changes that you took very much to heart yourself. Let's go back to the top for a minute. You have artifacts. Those are the pictures that you posted. Some of you, I think, have already realizing what values you think that those pictures represented. But more importantly, we have to get underneath that to what lies beneath, according to Schein. That would be the underlying beliefs, the underlying assumptions, the hidden messages that signify what the artifacts and values seem to suggest. Okay, so enough said about that. I'm just going to come out of that. Keep that in the back of your mind. And I'm going to send you this PowerPoint. So not to worry. You can draw yourself a little triangle if you want, but it's not necessary straight away. I'm not sure if somebody's sick or the child is. Save that for later. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is go back to the agenda. And you have a copy of this agenda. Jack's smiling. You know who that is, don't you, Jack? Okay, Can you see the agenda? I'm not sure if it's up. No? Yes, no? All right, give me a second. Okay, now it's up. All right, so now here we are in what we in the yellow. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms for probably less than 15 minutes. You have the triangle either written on the back of your hand or scribbled on a piece of paper. And if you need to see it again, just tell me when I go into the room. What I need you to do is just sort of talk to each other about what pictures, why you put the picture up you did, or maybe somebody can guess about what the picture was that you put up, and to try to do a PMI, a plus minus what's interesting. Concentrate on the what's interesting piece about what you think it means. If we have time, we'll go to E, F, G, H, which is you'll exchange your premises with the other group. I probably won't do that tonight. Exchange with the other group and then do the same thing. So basically, I want you to get deep into that culture thing. I want you to begin to a conversation about the hidden beliefs that you think characterize the cultures of schools in which you operate. Okay, so I will now, questions, comments, criticisms? All right, good. I don't feel like being criticized. Wait a minute, let me share screen. No, breakout. Where is breakout? Security? Nope. Does anybody know where the breakout is on Zoom besides myself? How come I can't see it? There we go. So I'm just going to do 2 rooms. I'm going to sign you automatically. Sign in at 4:47. I'm going to give you about 15 minutes, probably less, to get this off the ground.
I don't know why we can't.
Can you hear me?
Now
Hi.
Oh, okay, there we go. I'm like on an iPad for the first time. Yeah, I was the bridge. And I thought we were supposed to do actual pictures of our schools.
Either
So
way,
I
that's
was
okay.
I was worried. But then I found that bridge and I really like it because I just feel like I work in such a multicultural school that I think that everyone's kind of at a different step and everyone's making a different contribution. You know, we all have the same kind of goal, but takes a lot.
Mhm.
That's good, though. I saw your bridge and got jealous.
Why?
Bridge it out.
Because I want to work in a bridge.
Well, I work under a bridge. I'm actually a troll.
Well, I don't want to do that, but I do like the concept of a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
thought it was a nice.
yeah.
Is there a secret assumption behind what you just said, Jessica?
Yeah, definitely. For me, bridges like connect you from one place to another, and they definitely have a positive connotation. So I saw that and I was like, honestly, my first reaction was like, oh,
Because you don't work in a place with bridges.
yeah, I think I work in a place that is building a bridge, but there is a lot of like teacher resistance. So I don't see us as that like unified.
All right, so don't answer this question out loud yet. Just put it under your pillow for the moment. Sleep on it tonight if you have to. So what is that? But what are the hidden beliefs of a faculty where there's folks who don't want that bridge to be built? Don't answer that out loud yet. But play with that for a minute. I'm going to go to the non-gifted and talented group. I went to the gifted and talented group first. That would be this group. But now I'm going to go to the other group. But don't tell them I said you were the gifted and talented group.
We won't.
Sounds good.
Snitches get stitches.
Our annual celebrations, but it really is like embedded throughout the
Mhm.
school. Like when we do curriculum writing and social studies, we try to always include like the Shinnecock history and culture. We like when I talk to people in other districts and just look at their dual language program, it's real. Like I really do have to give us credit for having like an actual like true dual language program, not just like an enrichment program or just something to slap on. So we really do, like, everything we have is translated. We have a full-time interpreter in the district. It's just like we really do value like where our students come from.
Janelle, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you said everything is translated. That like really hit home with me because we, meaning the staff members, have been asking our principal for years if we can have our report card or IEPs translated. Those are legal documents.
Yeah.
So are your report cards translated
Well,
also?
It's funny you say that because that is the one area that we do lack. Our report cards are not translated, and we are having the same argument because it's possible. Like Brentwood does send out, Brentwood Bayshore, where I live, they do have translated report cards. The IEPs, anything from CSC meetings, those documents, yes, are translated, and we have a full-time interpreter who attends the CSC meetings.
Wow.
And translates everything for the parents.
See, we have to pay our, it's usually the Spanish teacher, she gets a stipend for it.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
No, I will, between the interpreter, and we have enough staff at this point, we have enough bilingual staff that there's always somebody able to help to translate, but still there's never enough. But the report card is still like a thorn in my side.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, when
Power School or Infinite Campus?
we use Power School. So
Okay.
like when I do my comments, because I am bilingual, I write them in Spanish, but I do that just because out of the goodness of my heart, not because it's like mandated,
I wonder if there's something, because I know in Infinite Campus, my boyfriend works at William Floyd, and he has the option for the comments to put in the report cards. It's in English, and then right beneath it is the Spanish translation of it. So he can put all Spanish comments on his report card. So I wonder if there's like a setting that Power School can turn
We do
on.
have like the comments, the actual comments. Yes, we do have the capability of, we do have a drop down with Spanish comments. but the actual like standards and the actual like
Oh, okay.
grades and content area, that's not translated.
So what you said the values, you use, I can't say the word, you used the value word. Okay, so I hear you say that. However, what's the message behind the music that the principal, maybe it's more to Jessica than to Janelle. What's the message behind the music if there's resistance from the leadership to have that happen?
Well, the picture that I posted was, it's kind of an inside joke because Nick had made this comment from the last class that we took. The picture that I posted was the Bravo TV channel's logo. Because I had shared some things about my district, and Nick had said, wow, this is like a Bravo TV series. And it is. It is. We have a lot of wealth. We have success. We have entitlement. We have plastic surgery. We have a superintendent sleeping with the high school principal. There's drama. It's Bravo.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Your own Real Housewives show.
Yes. So it's kind of ridiculous and
I've been
crazy.
teaching for a million years. It's the first time I've ever heard that one. I have to tell you.
Well, Wafa almost fell off her chair.
That you could definitely be a reality show for sure.
All right, I'm going to go back to the other group for a little bit. See if you can at least uncover values, and if you can get to what you think some of these secret basic assumptions are that exist among all of you, the 4 or 5 of you, that would be great. All right, good job.
It was, yeah. It's enough.
Mhm.
Are there,
What?
sorry, are there SEL initiatives on your plate of overloaded initiatives at your school?
Of course there are. It's everything.
Did you guys buy into like a program that the DOE bought into Goldie Hawn's Mind Up?
Oh, yes, I saw you wrote that.
Yeah, so,
No, we haven't bought into a program, but there's more. I think it was the Long Island Crisis Center that is now coming and presenting
wow.
in all the elementary schools. That's never happened before. Which,
Yeah.
you know, it's not everything is a bad thing. It's just when it's all at once.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming, you know. So you know,
Because you can't really understand or sink your teeth into one thing because you have to
Exactly.
sink your teeth a little bit into everything.
right.
I often just feel like it's a checkbox. Like it's just kind of like, great, we have it. And I'm like, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
is it really
Like, is it
sustainable, impactful, beneficial to students?
Right.
You know, I feel that way often with.
And if so, are we
especially,
really
like,
learning it? Like, let us have time to learn it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I feel like
master
it's
the education, like, you know, to present it to the children, but when everything's just thrown at us, like we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, like, you know.
I feel like curriculum is one thing and like that's just like a beast of its own, but I also feel like everyone's like DEI and like mental health and like, and I'm like, okay, but are we actually doing something? You know, I love that we're like, woohoo, we have a counseling staff, but like what's happening? I'm like a doer. I like action, I like results.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Take it next step further. Yeah.
Nick, is it proacting or reacting?
I would say within my district, it's a
Yes.
little bit proactive, but it's more a reaction to what's going on in the world. So like, we don't want that, so we're gonna do this. But I don't think there's really any assessment of like effectiveness
Good.
or like intention to
Not
really.
good, but a good conclusion. Not good that exists.
Yeah.
Excellent. So listen, you're going to hear these words a lot in the next 2 months. So the unpreferred future drives folks rather than the preferred.
Mhm.
Jessica, like that one. Write that one down, Jess. Mhm. Now, with that in mind, I'm gonna step off from you. If you can just come up with some kind of thread that has something to do, common thread that has something to do with either values or the messages behind the music. In the few minutes I was able to sit in on with this group, I heard a lot more than you probably realize on both levels, on the value level and on the basic assumptions level. See if you can come up with one thing you want to share back to the other group, and then we'll exchange that, and then we'll put that in the bank for later on. Good job.
Hi. Oh, hello.
Morning and
Okay, everybody came back. Excellent, very good. Nice job. Again, I'm only not giving you enough time to really marinate in these things as such. I'm just trying to get you to think out loud about things. So what I'm going to do now is share the screen again. I'm gonna just to make a note I'll be down something I hear that might be profound. You can see the little purple message here is, what conclusions that you emerged out of a 10 to 15 minute conversation, things came out. Some of you said some things that I thought were very telling, notwithstanding the Bravo channel idea as well, which that's a whole different course as such. So next, only question catch my eye, Jessica. Jessica C. Tell me anything that you thought that the group you agreed to, either about values that you thought you saw, or about secret messages that you may have uncovered.
Yeah, so we kind of summed it up at the end by noticing that we I said we had like we have a lot of complaints, and we noticed that it was like about teachers feeling overwhelmed. And then Nick kind of opened up the conversation, revisiting how teachers and education was seen in like April of 2020, and how for many of us, we actually felt that our profession was valued for the first time, and our American culture like realized for a hot minute how much schools do and how valuable teachers are. And then that quickly diminished. And we are back to a place in which most teachers, we feel, assume or believe that they are not really valued in their culture. And I remembered in the reading, I was trying to find the place, but I couldn't find it, that this assumption is really validated. In the reading, it said that teachers really aren't seen, I think it was as an academic profession. I took it as a profession that is like a profession, like something that should be valued. And I believe the reading was intimating that it's because of that teachers often feel resentful, and there are problems in our educational system.
Okay, problems that affect the whole with a W.
Right.
But problems that are the responsibility of leaders to take care of. So just keep that and put that under your pillow as well. I'm trying to figure out who was in which group. Nick, you were in the same group as Jessica, if I remember right? So let's find somebody who was not.
Yeah, I was.
Who was not in the Nick group. Maria, I know, came in late. Would be unfair to ask her to do that. Where's the other folks? I can't find them. They took off the rest of the day. Yeah. Jessica B, were you in the Jessica Crowley group?
No, I was with Janelle and Jack and Patricia and Juliana.
Well, they ran away from us, so congratulations. You're going to speak for that group.
Okay. I'm also trying to get off my phone and onto my computer. So if you could let me in, that'd be awesome. But we talked about administrators not agreeing to requests of teachers. So translating things in many different languages. We also spoke about the evolution of, that starting with teachers speaking up, and then they get pegged to do it. And then it turns into a secretary that does it. And then before you know it, it's gone. So policies that are not maintained for longevity. We also spoke about just the different things that were going on in our districts, and how even though they may be different events, that the principle, the main idea is still the same.
Okay. Again, I may be exaggerating this point, Jessica, but I just want to capture something that you were along those lines. Now, I'm thinking out loud and saying, and forgive me for making a quality judgment to the whole group, but that point about most teachers do not feel valued is ringing my bell. So I'm going to just come back to that when I find a way to make that happen later on. Very good. First thing I want to do is stop this share. And I want to make sure that who was the person who didn't get admitted was Jessica. I have your picture here. I have you in. Are you sure you're not in? Because you're actually speaking. So I don't see I don't see you, but I hear you.
I'm in on my phone, so I want to get off my phone and I want to use my computer because my
Okay,
phone's
so
gonna
so
die.
drop out, and then when I see your name on top, I'll put you in. Okay? Sounds like she dropped out already. All right, very good. Okay. That's gonna roll, that's gonna take us to any number of places in a moment. But what I'm gonna do now is again, share the screen and come back to the agenda. And you can see that I wrote that. I will get that. If you didn't write it down yourselves, I'll get it over to you somewhere along the line. All right, so that got us kicked. That was our kickoff, and now here we are with some of the things we need to talk about. We've seen each other. We've already done number one, so that's out. Are there any housekeeping questions? Things you're worried about? Two or three of you gave me a laundry list of the things that you were expected to do today, and wanted to make sure. I only was able to respond to one of you. I think Maria also asked, but I didn't get back to you, Maria, on that count. So really what I'm driving at is there any questions about it? Simon, don't ask me about dates. I forget half of them. Just work with what's in the syllabus for the moment. If it's something that's coming up, believe me, I will tell you. Clarification about assignments. I believe, I'm not sure, I didn't make a checklist. Almost all of you, if not all of you, told me that, who you were going to use as your interviewee, a central office person, not a building person, a central office person whom you're going to interview. And if I'm not mistaken, the next thing that's up after that is for you to get an organizational chart. Let me know if you're having trouble finding an organizational chart. It really shouldn't be that hard. You just have to dig around a little bit to make it happen. So I'm going to move through that. Know what I want to do?
I
Yes.
do have a question about that. So organizational chart, meaning everyone's role in the district, in like district office?
Yes. Well, the district for that matter, not the district. Okay.
Okay.
You will see it. It's really it's what maybe another better way to put it would be to call it a relationship chart. Who's at the top and who's at the bottom? Who answers to whom? That kind of thing. You'll see little lines. It's not going to be written now. It's going to be some kind of graphic.
Got it.
Okay. Which brings me to the fact that we're also going to look at the decision model in a moment. And I already did number 4. I showed you the cultural PowerPoint. When you have time, make it your business to go through that PowerPoint. Don't try to memorize it, but at least acquaint yourself with some of those principles, with LES principles, because it's got great value. Now, here's the next thing I need you to do for next week. All right. I put it in green so it would stand out. I am the editor of the Long Island Scope Journal. And I presume a lot of you are familiar with Scope. I never know what it stands for, but it's an educational association of superintendents all around the state. But the one on Long Island is particularly noteworthy and extremely influential. I am the editor-in-chief of their, I haven't got the magazine in front of me, of their journal. The journal comes out in a print copy and it comes out in online. The online link you have there for you to take advantage of over the next week. In addition to that, only because Jessica Crowley catches my sight. So Jessica Crowley sits down and writes an article, and I say, wow, this is a pretty good article. I bring it to my editorial board. The editorial board reviews and they say, wow, this is a great article. It's about XYZ. It's about teachers not feeling valued, as an example. And you have some empirical evidence to show that it will be printed in the journal. Having something printed in the journal is a compliment. It's a recognition of your professional standing. You talk about whether teachers are valued or not, or leaders are valued for that matter. And it's a real feather in your cap. So people submit articles to us. We accept 6 or 7 in it for we publish twice a year. And then I do podcasts. Okay. So I'll take Jessica and I'll say, Jessica, let's Zoom together. I'm going to record you and we're going to have a podcast of whatever Jessica wrote about. And sometimes I'll bring another guest in and the people bounce off each other and we have a pretty good conversation. And the purpose of the podcast is to promote the article, and the purpose of both of them is to promote the issue. Now, what I want you to do from this week to next is to watch my arrow here. Go to the link, www.scopeonline, episodes. you're going to see 6 episodes, and maybe more now, but there's 6 that I know that are on the link. Okay. I want you to look for the one of 2 articles that appeal to you. You can pick either article, or rather either podcast. They're about 20 minutes long. It won't take much of your life away from the rest of the things that you do. One is from Dr. John. We talked about this last week. One is about DEI. That is to say, it's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's the first podcast I'm pointing out. That's Dr. John Coverdale, okay, who is an expert on DEI, extremely well known around the state, who wrote an article about DEI, about hiring practices on Long Island, okay, about the needs to embed diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion into the school curricula and practices. Very powerful article, very powerful podcast. So that's one podcast. The other podcast is the authors of them are Dr. Eustace Thompson and Jeffrey Harris. Both of them are doctors. And what they wrote about, this is really tuned exactly into district policy. It's about how districts make, and something along the lines of what you said, Nick, a few minutes ago. What they did was the state was, rather the federal government required the states to require every school district to come up with LGBTQ policies to affirm, again, equity issues, to affirm policies to protect everyone's rights and so forth. And I'll tell you what they found, okay? But you need to hear how they comment on it. What they found was in one school district, and that's an anonymous district to speak to, they found that in this particular district, however, I would bet my house on the fact that it's probably true in many more districts, that every district's got policies about LGBTQ premises. However, what they don't do is particularly enforce them, which is probably the wrong way to characterize that. Probably another way to do it is they made the policy. Nick said that before, they check it off. They've done it. They send it to the high school, for example, and the high school principal may not believe in enforcing such a policy, or may not have the time to pay attention to it, and it goes through the motions, perhaps, of enforcing those premises. And that shows, now here's the word I'm really driving at here. Watch my little hands. The disjuncture between district office hierarchical approaches down to schools, and what that means about how districts make policies about anything, not just about LGBTQ things, but about any policy premises that they should be paying attention to. Excellent article, excellent podcast. Both of them are both excellent on both counts. Now, what I'm asking you to do is to watch either one. You don't have to watch both. All right? But you should pick one. I don't care which one you pick. Everybody could pick Coverdale. Everybody could pick Thompson. It doesn't matter to me in any fashion or form. And that will be the discussion we'll have when we open up next week's class. Okay? So you can see it's all there in green. And then you can see that also number 7 is in green. The discussion question will be, how do the issues described in the podcast relate to school decision making, and a word I've been playing with you about, but I'm going to start hammering harder, and to decision making and futuring, which goes back to lots of other premises that we need to talk about. So one more time, you have the Scope Online Journal link. You pick one of those 2 articles. You can read any of them if you want, but that's one of the 2 that I need you to watch, and then I need you to answer that discussion question. It might be the only question I'll even post this week. I'm not sure about that yet. Okay. The question is, how do the issues described above relate to school decision-making and futuring? Okay. Questions, comments, criticisms, suggestions?
I just have one probably silly question that everybody else probably knows. There's 2 separate sections on Brightspace. One says discussions one under assignments, it says discussions once weekly. And then there's the discussions where we post that information.
Yeah, ignore the first one. I put that up incorrectly. I think I told you that this afternoon. I hope I did. So just answer the discussion section.
Just
the-
the discussion,
yeah,
so
yes.
nothing in assignments.
No. The assignment premise was to show that you have 3 kinds of assignments, or several kinds of assignments.
Oh, I
One
see.
of the assignments, continuous assignments, is answering the discussion questions.
Okay, so we don't
Okay.
post it.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you for asking the question. I
thank
would-
you for clarifying that.
Yeah, it was my fault to begin with, so I should make
Well,
it
that's
better.
okay.
Right? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. All right, now, you ready? I'm moving very fast. I apologize. Now I'm going back to, I also just posted this again in Brightspace, but I don't think it came out the way I wanted to. So I'm going to send you the whole PowerPoint in an email, probably tomorrow. And here it comes. Excuse me. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. Okay. All right. Actually, it's funny because Jack used a word I have never used before in my teaching, and I like the word Jack used. And it's something like what I've been using for the last many years, actually, in some of the books I've been writing and continuing to write. And that's I use the word futures or futuring. Jack used the word forethought, I think is the word that Jack used, which is a similar premise. And so where I can sprinkle it in, I'm not going to hold your hands to the fire all that closely on all of it. Where I can sprinkle it in, I'm going to sprinkle in the term of future or futuring. Now, futuring is a word I made up. It doesn't exist in the dictionary. And if you ask me to define it, I have trouble doing it. But I will, if you press me, I will. Basically, what we're talking, and basically the issue is that futuring is a gerund, if you remember what that was from your grammar days. Futuring is a verb. Futuring is a noun. Sometimes I guess you can make it into an adjective without breathing too hard either. So futuring, for want of a better term, this to sound like the nerd that I really am, is the act of futuring. That is to say, the act of forecasting, the act of figuring out, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this to you last week, what I call the 3 Ps: what's possible, what's probable, and what's preferable. There's a 4th P I'll save for the end of the later on in the semester. What's possible, what's probable, what's preferable. Most things are possible. Many more things are of that possible group are probable, and some are preferable. Now, you would think that it sounds like we're going to spend our time in preferable, but we're not. We're going to spend our time in probable. I mean, this is a side shoe. One of my daughters went up in the emergency room. Didn't tell us she was in the emergency room until after she got out of the emergency room with a migraine thing. And my wife and I flipped out because she was sparing us from letting us know. And then when she does tell us, we flip out anyway. And we went through our own little, as we began to ground ourselves late Sunday night about what she was trying to tell us. Really what she was saying was, well, what she had been in the hospital. But what we had to do was to go through the possibles, the probables, and the preferables. When you hear somebody talk about a migraine, there's all kinds of possibles that can flood through your head, no pun intended. But then you have to get into what the probables are. And then the probables narrow down what the possibles could be. And clearly the preferable is for the migraines to go away, or at least to find out what the reason for the migraines are to make it go away. Hopefully, if you can. And we're not past the probables yet with her because she still hasn't finished all the tests. But things happen to you every day. Okay. I remember her last name. I can't remember. I'm going to call you Mrs. McNeese, but I can't because I can't remember your first name. Was telling us a story about something that happened in school today. I won't go into it.
Laura.
Laura, that's rife. Rife, I guess is a better word. Rife, R-I-F-E, with possible, probables, and preferables. The preferable is to assure that that student is safe. That's the preferable. And the probables go back to the decision that you and the school had to make to assure that. So think of it from that corner. Is it about astrology? that you're an Aquarius and at the end of the week, you're going to win the $1.35 billion lottery. No. Futuring is about forecasting what's probable. And there are ways to do that, believe it or not. It's not as though these things just happen. There are ways to do that. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I'm not sure. And I really don't care if you agree with me or not, in truth. I truly believe that society, United States, not just the United States, but the world and education systems on whole with a W, blew it on the COVID thing, blew it, just blew it. It reacted to something they should have been ready for. The COVID virus? No. An illness? Yes. A catastrophe? Yes. An emergency? Yes. An alien invasion or an invasion from an enemy? Of course, every school should have had a system in place. When you have fire drills in your school or the lockdown drills that you unfortunately have to do, what you're doing is you're looking at a probable future that you need to be prepared for. Hopefully that neither of which would ever happen, but at least you know that you prepared for it. You futured for it. People future every day. You decide what pair of shoes to wear. You decide which way to part your hair if you have hair to part. You decide which way to go to work. Those are all squirrels' future when they bury acorns. Farmers' future when they plow over their fields so that they can regain their fertility. This is nothing new, but the premise of futuring, and to come back to the COVID crisis, is an example of I apologize for the word, but I want to use this word, crappy decision making, crappy futuring. When the COVID virus was beginning to rear its head, I was talking to a superintendent from Western New York in a very poor school district. I'd had him as a dissertation student, doctoral student, and he had moved on to being a superintendent in a very poor part of New York State. So we were talking about a consult we might be doing there. And this is, again, 3 years ago, just about now, maybe a little later than now. And I said, so what are you doing? He says, what am I doing about why? I says, there's a epidemic coming. Oh, so he says, it won't hit us. We're out here in nowhere, in the boondocks. It's not going to happen to us. I said, sounds like it's happening everywhere. Really? Is that so? He says, I didn't think I realized that. I said, so what are you going to do about it? Well, no, not much. He says, well, watch for it, but have my nurses ready. I said, wait a minute, are you going to probably assume that it's not going to affect your school, district, or your area? Well, he says, don't you think a probable future is that you're going to shut down your schools? He says, no. But if we do, he says, we have Chromebooks. So, okay, so that's how you're going to deliver your education to the children. And he says, yeah, he says, the trouble is, though, he says, most of the kids live in trailers over here and they don't have internet when they go home. So they won't be able to do that. So what are you going to do about it? Well, and he didn't have an answer. And eventually he got an answer. Everybody kind of stepped up, as somebody said last week, and they built the plane while it was flying, to use a phrase. But they should have been ready. And they weren't, because they were sleeping at the switch. And people, I was reading today, there's an artificial intelligence thing going on where a kid can jump into this program, chat something, and the kid can have the program write an essay for you. You cannot detect that it was not written, that was written by a computer. And people, especially in colleges, they're turning them in, and the professors can't figure out what's going on. We should have futures for that, believe it or not. If somebody made the app for it, we should have been able to figure out what that meant for educational systems. I get on my horse sometimes. Forgive me. Now, this entire PowerPoint is, my middle name is Nerd. So know that this is Nerd squared. I don't want you to look at the whole PowerPoint. Eventually, I will ask you to, but not yet. Okay, if you're interested in the idea of futuring and planning ahead, and not just technology, but all the issues that we should be able to forecast eventualities for, so be it. What I'm going to do, though, is walk you through, and It's called slide 52, and I mentioned this until I realized you couldn't find slide 52. Here is slide 52, all right? This is about decision-making. Now, we're going to come back to decision-making and hit it much more much harder in a much more complex way than we're doing with it now. But what I wanted you to do is to get used to this. When I finish telling you about this, you will never see a decision the same way, I hope. And again, this is about as simple as a decision-making model as possible. And we start to think about district or principal decision-making. This is Tinker Toys compared to what that's about. But here it comes. All right, here we come. Left to right, linear fashion. Something, there are facts and information. Something happens or is about to happen or has happened that leads to a goal. And the goal leads to alternatives. And then you begin to future the choices. Well, if this happens, then that'll happen. If this happens, then that'll happen. And you begin to look more closely at the choices, and then you make the choice based on your values and feelings. Now, forgive me for treating you like junior high school students. And I don't want to pick on the students because I don't know, maybe it's not the right thing for me to do. So I'm going to talk in the abstract. So here he comes. You ready? Mary is crazy about John, dying to go out with John. That's a fact. All right. Her goal is to go out with John. Follow the arrow. Now, this I will ask. And keep it clean. Give me some choices. What are some choices that Mary has? Goal is to go out with John.
To call
ask
him up and
John?
Ask John out. Okay. Another choice.
ask him out.
Excuse me? I can hear you, but I can't hear you. That's the only choice? They ask him out?
Or should we
Ask
just never
a
address it?
friend if he likes her.
Somebody goes to old John, do you like Mary? Okay. What's another choice?
Leave it alone and never address it, waiting for him.
Now, Juliana spoke very authoritatively about that. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but the short story is that's clearly a choice. All right? Do nothing. So watch my
I was gonna say go out with Bob and make him jealous.
Ooh, see that? I never thought of that one, Karen. Huh. I didn't have much of a junior high school love life myself, so I'm learning from you folks on this. So there's your facts. Watch my arrow. There's your goal. There's your choices. Now, we go to futuring. See, the arrow goes both ways now, as you can see. So now, let's pick the one that most people get a kick out of talking about, and that is suppose Mary gets Joan to ask John to tell John that Mary likes John. Sounds like a soap opera. What are the possible or probable futures that would dictate that? You've all done it.
He says, "Oh, great, I like her too."
That's a possible, right? What's another possible or probable?
That he doesn't like her.
Yeah. Now, what would happen if she finds out he doesn't like her? What's a probable that emerges from that?
She has to change her goals.
I hope so. I hope there's implying away for old John for the rest of the born days as such. Okay. The one I was thinking of was, so if Joan tells John that Mary likes John, Joan winds up going out with John because those are the way those things kind of work. But those are the possibles and the probables that emerge here. Now you watch the arrow, it tumbles over to choices, but the choices don't get made until you look at the values and feelings. Now, I'll tell you about this part to save some time. If Mary is a real strong individual who's independent and not using her getting her validation from whether John likes her or not, she said, like someone said, "Oh, I move on." But my values are, I don't need to be embarrassed by this. I don't want to be embarrassed, nor will I allow myself to be embarrassed. So my choice is whichever choice she picks. Now, let's take it to history. Facts. COVID was coming. Goals. Keep people safe. Choices. Do nothing. Lockdown. Mask up. If I do nothing, what would be the probability of that? Don't answer. You know the answers to these things now. This is backwards. If I mask up, we know that that wasn't universally accepted because some people are stupid. But the other part of it is too that people didn't want to be forced to do something that was unpleasant. And all of that had to do with the values and the feelings. Now, think about what you did today. Now, what you need to do is kind of tattoo this model into your mind. And really what you should do, I'm not going to force you to say this out loud, is think about the simplest decision that you made today or the most complicated one that you did today or any time. All right. And how did these things come into play? These variables all came into play. Letting you marinate in that for a minute. All right. And again, you're going to see this PowerPoint and you're going to see slide 52. So you can see it more than once. Or you can scribble it down now and at least get it in front of you. But now that brings you back to stopping the share. Well, let's go back to a school decision. Can somebody offer me a school decision? Something you saw your principal or your district superintendent do? Besides the one that somebody said about the high school principal, I don't want to do that one.
Buying a new math program.
All right, so what are the facts behind that? I'm not sure who said that, but what are the facts behind that?
We have a new math program.
Why are they buying a new math program?
Don't know.
Listen to the sarcasm in the voice on that. Let that marinate for a second. So the goals were to buy a new math program, or rather the facts were to buy a new math program, and the goals that the leader used was to force it. I'm asking you, was the choice to force the math program on you?
Correct. He cherry picked 3 members of our entire staff, asked them how they felt about it. It was purchased over the summer. We were waiting for it for a month. It was slammed on our desk in October, and we were told to hurry up.
Wow. The picture of the epitome of exemplary leadership, he said sarcastically. So let's walk with the principal's head for a moment. Yeah, for some reason she felt the need to buy this new program. Oh, come on, Richard. 52, Boston. For some reason, she felt the need to purchase a program, maybe unsatisfied with the scores and whatever. And so she decided the goal was to choose a series, but really she had the series chosen on her own without any real input. So that was, let's say, choice 1. And when she just figured out how to do this, she just wasn't concerned about what the future would bring about this. And what does that say about that leader's principle, that leader's values and feelings?
Being that she chose it herself, she doesn't value the word of the educators that are actually laying out this program.
That's great. It's not great, but it's great that you picked that out. Is there any other possibilities?
Maybe the principal's not confident in their own leadership ability. So instead of reaching out to the staff to try and build some consensus and buy-in, she feels the only path forward is to force it.
Yeah, and another way too, Jack, I think it was Jack who said that. Another way to look at it too is that piggyback of what you just said is that principal had no faith in the staff to pick a book correctly.
Well, and I think it also shows that because she only asked, or he or she only asked 3 people, that they just surround themselves with people who give them the answers that they want to hear.
Yeah.
And as opposed to asking the staff as a whole to get a consensus and, like Jack said, to then get buy-in for it. They wanted what they wanted, surrounded themselves and asked people who would tell them what they wanted to hear and moved forward.
Amen. Well said. See all the possibilities that roll out? Yeah, if you think about district thing, let's go back up to let's lose this. Let's go back to the agenda. Oh, come on, Richie. Now, let's roll down. You had this on the agenda. I don't know why my screen is faint, so I apologize if you can't see it all that well. The next question would be, how do you perceive how your superintendent makes decisions? And I have a good idea. Let's go into a breakout room to figure that out. So one more breakout room. Let's do it in threes this time. 5 minutes. I don't do breakout rooms for the sake of breakout room. I do breakout rooms so that, excuse me. I think I'm getting sick. I always think I'm getting sick. I like to get the exchange going. So I got to find where I do that again. Breakout rooms, breakout rooms. This time we'll do. How do I do this? I got it. Okay, well, now we have 3 rooms. Now the question is, how do you perceive how district or the building, you can go to building if you want. How do you perceive how that model applies to how your district makes decisions? And now what you can also do is weave that with 2 other points. Ready? Not only the decision model, but the culture model, the premises of culture come into this as well. All right, so really there's 2 pieces to look at here. How does the culture model and the decision model intersect with how people make decisions in your building? All right, so you can go into the rooms, open all rooms, go.
Procedures are still. super gung ho, and then other teachers are kind of like that tenure apathy or like frustration, like,
Right, yeah.
you know? But I have no idea how the superintendent makes decisions.
Personally, for me, the superintendent has announced that he's retiring over the summer, so he has taken a backseat, and he has done that since really since COVID. Like, we haven't seen him around.
Pretty long back seat.
What's that?
That's a pretty long back seat, right? Hasn't COVID been around for 30 years?
But as far as like within my building, my principal has created such a family and community within my building. And so she does reach out to all of us for our opinions. And, you know, that's how decisions are made, like truly through a community and family feel. So, you know, we
Pretty
all
awesome.
and yeah, it is.
Is it a small school?
I'm sorry.
Is it a small school?
No, very large school. We have almost 1,000 students in the K-5 building. So
I see my principal trying really hard to shift the culture. This is, I think, her 5th year. And I often wonder when we read about culture, like, how do you know, it's not like you can hire all your people when you start being principal somewhere, like, and it's not like you can get rid of, you know.
you want to, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I know whenever in the readings it says like inspire and motivate. I wonder, that's some specific examples, because you know the teachers that for every initiative they don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they smile to the principal, and then when the principal's not around, it's like, oh, SEL, oh, you know, this, that. And listen, we all get annoyed sometimes, for sure, but you know the ones that are not budging.
You could just never make them happy.
But there's always some. But like my school used to be like yours, Laura. Like it was a small community, and it's gone in the opposite direction. Like we got a new superintendent, and he's horrendous. He listens to no one. He dictates. We've probably had in a very small school, at least a third, probably half in the last 2 years, retire or leave.
Wow.
And
Wow. It's a lot.
it is. And we can't get people to, because we're so far out east, we can't get new people. Like we're having like real problems. But it's like, to your point, Jessica, you ever hear that like famous Napoleon quote? I don't know if this is an army thing or not, but he says like men will legitimately do anything for a piece of cloth on their chest, like an award. And the trick is just finding out those awards, right? Like it's that's the.
Oh, I like that. Reading people, knowing what they want.
That's it, you know, or even establishing like a system of rewards that people then want to get involved in. You know, that's like one of the fundamental cores of, I don't know, these leadership classes, we don't really get into like, we do a lot of like theory and prose and stuff, but like, that's really what you're trying to do, right? Like we always say in the Army, you can either push the string or pull the string. If you put your finger at the front of the string and you move it across the table, you're a leader. If you put yourself at the back of the string and you try and push the string along, which is what my superintendent is doing, I mean, you may eventually get there, but it's the least efficient model. You know, and you're never going to get everybody to buy in either, right? You spend 90% of your time on 10% of your people.
Yes, well said. Well said.
You gotta cut losses someplace and move in others, you know, like your early adopters, your people who come along, and then the people, no matter what you do, you know, the ice cream's too cold. You're never going to win them over.
Right.
At least in my experience.
Well, another way to look at it too, Jack, I'm not sure, it's not the same analogy as you're using off the military point of view, is I may have said this to you last week as a whole, to everyone, is the only way you can transform people is to give them new ways to realize. Think about your own personal souls, SOULS souls. When did you change? How did you change? When you realize something differently than you were accustomed to. That's hard. Now, again, I'm giving you a bumper sticker. This is a platitude. I know that. And so I always found through research and through my own experiences is what you do is you create experiences where people have the opportunity to realize differently by empowering them along the lines of what Laura's saying. Even along some of the lines of, I guess, the person who was preceded this superintendent that you have now. Again, I'm talking in platitudes. I'm going to bring you back in a second. I'm going to go see what the other folks are about. But really what I want you to see, and I'm going to say the same thing to the other two groups, I want you to see the intersection between, the culture and decision-making. How you can't pull them apart. And if the culture is misaligned, then so is the decision-making process. And there's another piece to that I'll round off the class with in a moment. Good job. This is the gifted and talented class. Don't tell anybody.
Part. But I pulled myself together, and I lived in Hampton Bays, and now I live in Manorville.
Okay. Oh my
So
God.
that's how I became in this district.
Got it.
So I'm afraid to ask if you know anybody in Sag Harbor.
You talking to me?
Yes.
Let me I used to know a lot of people in Sag Harbor. I don't know if I know anybody in Sag Harbor today. Let me think. I knew two superintendents there, but they're both, I know assistant superintendent, very, 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 very slightly.
Dr. Bonoso?
I know that name. I don't know where I know it from. That name from. I can't say I know it personally. I know the business official. Very, very, very. No, he's not there anymore. I take it back. Let me think, Jessica. Remind me about it. So is
Jack
this
Pryor used to work for us.
Yeah, who's that?
Jack Pryor.
Jack. I know Jack.
A long time ago, he worked for us.
I know Jack. Not well, but I know him.
Do you know Dick Malone?
Slightly. I know the name.
Yeah, I work for his son.
Okay. So there's only two of you in this group, Janelle?
We have Maria, but she's in the car. I think we might have lost her.
Maria, we keep losing Maria. Maria, I know, is trying to keep a lot of balls up in the air today. All right, so I'm going to go over to the next group, and I'll be back maybe in a second.
Okay.
And she wants to be involved in that as much as she can. So she does put forth that effort. And it's never intimidating when she walks in. It's very warm, it's very welcoming. And the kids don't feel intimidated when she's there. It's not like, oh, who's this person? They all know that it's Dr. Kelly, and they all know that she's part of our school. So it's nice to have somebody like that as the person who is the head and the face of your district.
Right,
And again, it is that she's at a smaller district.
Right, but Karen was saying the same thing. I mean, I'm in a small district, and I wish it was the way that Juliana has it there. Because with his model, like I said, he's trying to now redirect everyone to where they should be going, because they're so used to this superintendent that we had for 10 years who was so welcoming, that you saw him throughout the school district, in every building, in every classroom. You were able to have a conversation with him. I feel like he wants to be in that separate building, and he does collaborate with the other district leaders, but again, he makes the final decision, and that's it. And that's pretty much how he is. He says he's a systems thinker, and there's not a lot of interaction with kids, with the students, with the teachers. I haven't seen. I seen him in the beginning of the school year. I mean, when he started 3 years ago, maybe once or twice walking the hall, and that's it. We haven't even seen him. So without these interviews or conversations about me getting into the program when I first started, and then the interview, I don't think I would ever see him in that small building, which is kind of discouraging.
And I will say, like, even I work the summer school program for ESY, and every Friday we pick a dish to make, and we'll cook, and then we'll watch a movie. So the dish is always based on like what we're watching. And the students will make an extra plate for Dr. Kelly, and we'll walk it over to Dr. Kelly's office on Fridays. and she just opens her office whatever time we're there. And we always would just show up. We never like checked to see if she was there or whatever it was. We just showed up, and she lets the kids sit in her chair, and she talks to them, and she listens to them, and they ask her questions. And it's very humble, it's very grounded, and very rooted in the kids and what are we doing that's best for kids and how can we pull together. And she, in her interview, made a statement about how none of us are as smart on our own as we are working together towards our common goal of
Did
what
you steal that from me? Didn't I ask you that question last week?
she quoted you quite a few times. Quite a few
Yeah.
times. But she truly, Marie and I walked out of our interview both days and we're like, this is just such a phenomenal person to aspire to be. And it's really comforting to know that you have somebody that you would kind of like dream of to have in your district. And our district, when they were looking for a new superintendent, was not settling. They would not just take anybody who would come out to Bridgehampton. They were looking for somebody really specific, and she talked about how she had very specific guidelines to what she was looking for when applying to districts, and what she wanted for that next piece of her career. So it worked out beautifully. I will say, I think we got really lucky.
I mean, put words in your mouth and take them out again. So the value system that the superintendent expressed obviously suggests the kind of decision-making processes that she uses.
Mhm.
And if I heard you correctly, you're saying that, and that aligns with the culture of the district to begin with.
It doesn't align for me, what I see in my building. And again, it's only her second year. So her first year was more of an observant, and now we're more hands-on. A lot of teachers, a lot of students, a lot of parents kind of have an entitlement where it's my way and I want it now. Where she is driving the school in the sense that we are all one team, we are all working together, we all have the common goal of what is best for kids, how can we get there. Has like an open door policy to listen to other perspectives and what people need and what people want. So she's guiding it that way, and I think it can get there. Just a couple rotten apples in the bunch.
Well, okay. You either pick them out or you make them applesauce out of them.
Mhm.
The way to look at it. So I hear you saying that the culture of the place has not yet evolved to where Mary is as
Right.
such. And Mary has to do is figure out ways. I said this to one of the groups before you folks, is to figure out. This is easy to say, not that easy to do. Is figure out how she can transform folks to realize differently.
Mhm.
Think about that premise. The only way you transform people is when they come up with new ways to realize. You don't snap your fingers and do that. You could do that through the creation of experiences and engagement among folks. And it takes more than a year, that's for sure. Did you talk to David for me?
I did.
Yeah.
I went right up to him and I said, I was told to pinch your cheek. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, Dr. Bernardo. And he goes, well, my cheek is right here. But he's actually been out this week. His father just passed away.
Well, give him my best.
I will.
Actually, when I knew him, my mother was very ill. So that's makes what's left of my hair curl. Okay, good job. I'm going to bring you back. Well, no, we'll bring you back. Well, I'll say it to everybody at the same time. Good job.
In progress.
Okay, good job. Wow, I'm looking at my agenda and I'm seeing that we almost got to where I wanted to get to. And I know 6 o'clock is coming. I'm aware of that. Two things I'm going to show you, and then what I'm going to do is to put you in the teams I put you into to get the APA under control. If your team decides that you are,
This meeting is being recorded.
if your team decides that you would rather do it on your own offline, that's okay. Then you can just go home, figuratively speaking, or you can hang out with me and I'll get into each of the rooms and just give some more direction about what that's about, so we can move on that. You will know what you need to do for next week as such, as far as reading the chapters are concerned. Basically you need to get through chapter 5 by next week. I haven't gotten to everything in all the chapters yet, but I'm certainly moving through them as best I can without holding you up from all the great conversation you had. Now, one last thing I want to show you is the just to show you where we are. And for some reason, the paper I'm showing you, the agenda is very faint. So I apologize if you can't see it, although you do have a copy of this. And that would be the last point I want to make right now. But here's where we are. Okay, I'm in content. I'm in number 9. We've just reviewed the decision model, and we're not going to do a Venn diagram, but you really have shown me, most of you, not all of you, how you see the intersection among 3 premises, among culture, insofar as you understand culture. And you are no experts on culture yet, but how your understanding of what culture is to this point, your understanding of what decision making is to this point, and the understanding of how value systems, especially in terms of a decision making, rather in terms of the decision model, apply. Now, if you can just see where I'm taking you, I'm stopping at 10 here. Actually, I'm skipping 10. I'll come back to that. Well, no, I'm not. Watch this. I'm not going to do a breakout group, but the question is just for you to think about. And I think you know the answer to this, but answer it between your ears. You don't have to share it out yet. How flat is your leadership world? Basically, is it hierarchical or is it flattened, where where the decision processes and collaboration work across places, presuming that the flattened group knows how to collaborate with each other. We talked about that a little bit last week. And then the question then becomes, and we're not going into a breakout room on this, is the premise of, I'm going to go into this next week, is the premise of transformation or adapting? In every group I sat in on, I heard the same things. Some of you were praising your education world, and some of you were complaining about it. By the way, this is Las Vegas. Whatever you say here stays here, not to worry. No one's going to go running back to another district and saying, this is what I heard about you. Don't do that. He smiled. And I won't do it, that's for sure. But to what extent is your leader willing to transform the group or just adapt with it, go with the flow, collect the paychecks, move things through, make the trains run on time, keep everybody more or less happy, but not necessarily have them engage in true transformation? That is to say, to coming up with new ways to realize, to give people new experiences, to draw more internal conclusions about what life should be like in a school. Now, with that, I'm going to stop that. I know I'm talking fast because I want to get to the next thing. I just want to show you one more thing, one little more thing. I promise it'll be the end of all the things I've been sharing for the last 2 hours. And that would be, how do I get this up? Okay, give me a second. I haven't got a real good big picture of this, but hopefully you'll be able to see it. For those of you wondering, that's what an organizational chart looks like. Okay. Now, you can't see it very well, I know. You can Google, there's about 1 million different diagrams I could have chosen. I just picked the first one I could find. Somebody on top, why it's a man, I don't know, but somebody on top, and the little arrow is down and out, and the arrows are lines beneath, and so forth. Almost all of the organizational charts you're going to find are going to look like that, but some won't. Now, don't offer the opinion straight out loud, but because I know what your answer is going to be. What does this structure imply about its culture, about its decision process? And what does this structure imply about its ability to change with the 21st century? All the things you spoke about in your priorities and that you wrote up in your discussions, a lot of it was SEL material, but there was other things too. Parents concerned, parenting, engagement of parent bullying kinds of things, so forth. So you came up with 4 or 5 different premises, and several of you came up with the one I thought was the important one that would have been DEI. And at any rate, now the next issue is how well could the issues that you saw identify, the SEL issues? Like Nick was saying, yeah, we got SEL things in his best. It might be, Nick didn't say this, but I'm going to say that he said it. It was really lipstick on a pig. It was things people see, but it didn't necessarily translate to truly addressing SEL issues. And so what does that say about the structures of schools where the decision process looks like the one you see in this little picture here? Okay. And we'll stop here on that count. What I'm going to do now is going to put you in the group. Before I put you in groups, let's remind you about this APA assignment, the Authentic Performance Evaluation assignment that everybody who takes this course must do. It's not one that would necessarily apply. Though a strategic plan that comes out of it was something I will have you do before we finish this semester. And so the first issue is I put you in groups, but not because I expect you to come up with one plan, strategic plan. That's not what I expect. I put you in groups so you could help each other figure your own things out. So only because I have my slide out, I'm looking at Patricia and Jessica and Jack and Juliana. So let's say they're in one group. And by the way, you're staying in these groups. It's not as though I'm going to mix you up every week. If I put you in one group and Juliana says, I don't have any idea what this man wants, but Jack says, I understand this perfectly. Listen to me. And then Juliana learns from Jack. And then Jessica says, you're both wrong. It's this. But the bottom line is you're going to help each other get this assignment done. So I would suggest strongly that you pull up either the syllabus or you pull up either of the 2 agendas, last week's agenda or this one, because they both have the APA assignment on it. And then what I'm going to give you about a half hour to do, we'll stop about 6:30, is for you to begin to zero in on what you think is an issue that you want to solve. Understand, you're going to identify the issue. You're going to flesh out a plan to address the issue in a number of different ways. You're not going to do the plan. You're just going to write it. You can't do the plan. You haven't got time to do the plan, and you haven't got the authority to do it. Okay? But you are going to write it out. And this is straight out of the stupid test you have to take. So I'm going to put you, now you need to tell me. I think I made 3 groups last week. Somebody help me remember. It was a 4. Anybody remember? I can tell everything I said stuck in your head. It's like, oh.
I think it was 2 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3.
Thank you, Juliana. Now let's go with you then. Can you tell me who was in your group? Can you remember?
My group was me, Maria, Janelle, and I think Jessica. I think.
Which Jessica?
Yeah, it was me. So
Who's
it's
me?
Janelle, Juliana, Maria, Karen.
That's it.
Janelle, Juliana, Karen, 1, 2,
And
3,
Maria.
and Maria. Okay. And then that, Jack, do you remember where you were?
Nope.
Honest answers, give honest responses. Jessica C.
I was with Jack.
Okay.
I don't remember, but since he doesn't remember, then we're
You get
probably
away with
very
that.
unforgettable.
Nick
So,
remembers though. My money's on Nick. Nick
I think it
remembers.
was me, Laura, and Jessica Cafiso.
Okay, Nick, Laura, Jessica C. All right, and that leaves, who's left? Tracy? Patricia would have remembered. I know Patricia. Patricia, you remember, I can tell. Who was it?
I did write it down, but I think we're just doing process of elimination now. So
Yes, we are.
Jessica Crowley, me, Jack, and are we missing someone else?
Laura.
Oh, okay. Laura.
Jack,
Meany.
you're in Patricia's group.
No.
Right there in the back. of
Laura's
your
with
head.
us.
Oh, Laura's with you?
Give us Laura back.
Oh,
Me,
do you have
Laura,
Julia?
Cafiso.
Do you have Julia? The other Julie?
Do I?
Peterson, I think her last name is.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah,
it
she's
as her
not here
before.
today.
Yeah, Julie
I
is.
don't think- I don't know. I don't
All
think
right, well-
No, Nick, you were the group of three for
Yeah.
sure.
We're the threes.
You're the threes.
All right, you're going into groups. This time I put you in there.
Before we do that, can I just confirm what you said about the readings? So you're saying by next Wednesday, the 18th, we should have read up to chapter 5
Yes, ma'am.
of the readings? Okay,
Yes,
so we should, by next Wednesday, we should have read 1,
Yes, ma'am.
9, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. The other piece is, you need to watch you need to answer the
podcast.
question, and you need to watch one of those 2 podcasts. Okay? And by that time, when is I think the charts due the week after next, I think. I forget when that's due.
On the syllabus, it says the 17th.
So that would be next week. So the chart, you should have the chart available for you for the next week. Thank you. All
On
right.
on the chart, you just want like titles or you want a description of what they do?
No, just titles.
Okay,
And you don't have to give me, well, just the title, not nobody's name as such.
oh, okay.
And we're just emailing you that chart, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have 3 groups. Now I have to sign you manually. Here we go. So room 1 is going to be Juliana, Maria, Janelle, Karen. I don't see Karen on here. Oh, here she is, Karen. And that's it, right? So that's one group. Then I have group 2 is is that Nick? Nick? Laura and Jessica Crowley. You got 2 Jessica C there. I just realized that. All right.
wrong, Jessica.
Wrong, Jessica?
Yeah,
Okay.
Cafiso.
Okay. And then I'm assigning to group 3, Jack, Laura, and Patricia. That wasn't too hard. Okay. Go to your rooms. Go to your rooms.
Jessica, aren't you with us, Crowley? I think.
I have in room 2, so we'll figure that out in a minute. Doesn't matter, as long as I have somebody in the same rooms.
Professor, I was with Nick and Jessica Fiso.
Okay, who is I?
Laura.
Laura?
Yep.
You with Nick?
Yep.
It's not our group, Professor.
Oh, wait, okay, so I gotta move Jessica, this Jessica?
You're,
Jessica
you're
Crowley.
moving me out and
Laura.
Laura's in.
So I gotta take
Bye,
out Belrose, Jessica comes out, right?
Man, always just Belrose Jess, yeah. Not Floral Park.
Laura, do I have you assigned someplace?
No, I think you just left me by myself.
Nobody wants you. I didn't want to tell you that, though. All right, so which room are you supposed to be in?
I'm with Nick.
Laura is with Nick.
So
Nick is
with
in
that-
room 2. All right, so you're taken care of. All right, now
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Now we got to get Jessica Crowley
Oh, get a switch.
to. I think he goes to join this one.
Okay.
Let's see. We're looking on Brightspace.
Yeah.
All right, it's in the syllabus. I'm looking.
Okay.
it goes over-
Yeah, printed one. He's looking on Brightspace and I'm not able to locate it for him that quickly. So we're looking for a topic of area of issue, concern from your district that you believe needs to be initiated, improved, modified,
Right.
etc.
Okay.
So area of concern. I feel like because we're so close in proximity with our districts,
Sure.
like I said, when I spoke earlier about speaking to a teacher who's been working there for 28 years, the English teacher, how E&L students are placed in his class, especially the psych students in high school, how they are not, they're out of second, third grade, fourth grade reading level. So he feels that there has to be more support because it's not coming locally. Might be federal funding to fund these programs where we could have pulling the students out into a group of an English class, whether it be bilingual or getting them the help that they need instead of placing them in the classroom, because they only have one period with the E&L teacher, these students, and then the rest of them, the E&L teacher follows them around from class to class. And our population has grown to 35%.
Well, our population in Greenport is over 60%. I understand where your friend is coming from, but my thought has been like we should set up some sort of school for this, right? Like you're hiring all these teachers, we're hiring all these teachers, Matatuck's hiring all these teachers, Riverhead's hiring all these teachers. We've got this huge population of, young adults who are functionally illiterate. And we're hoping that by following them around in a math class and social studies class, that we're going to fix that, which
Right.
is, to me, is totally insane. Like there's no way that's ever going to happen.
Right.
And it isn't happening. Right now, we're one of the worst ranked schools in New York State. And that's our model with, 60% E&L students. Like,
Okay, so, excuse me, Jack, so slow down a little
Sorry.
bit. All right, here's what I hear. By the way, if you folks want to huddle up because you're because you're regionally in the same area with the same issue, I'm fine with that. Or you want to go separately, or you want to sometimes work with each other, work it out and go elsewhere another time. I'm fine with that. Just remind me, because I will forget that I just said that.
Okay.
Right? You know that. So here's the issue now, and this is the issue. And don't take it personally. Just having done this 1,000 times, I know and led them in more than times than I want to admit to. What you both have done is, I'm not going to get the right verb here. Leapfrog, it's probably a better word, over the issue really to a solution. Everybody does something like this. And in fact, Jack, you kind of did that when Patricia kind of started to comment. You said, well, I see it differently. So you
I
went to
apologize.
No, that's fine, because you went to a different, that's fine. You went to a different solution to an issue we haven't really defined properly. And this is what happens when district people, especially, haven't got the time or know, K-N-O-W, know how to approach an issue of any kind, whether it's about what you folks are thinking about or something totally different. They come up with a solution and then they back in the problem to the solution that they have. That's called muddling through to some extent, because people will say, well, what worked yesterday? I charged that machine gun nest from the left, so it should work again if I charge from the left. And only this time you find the machine gun's aiming left, and there ain't nobody else to get to the machine gun nest. And so what we need to do is slow down a little bit. What you need to do in this step one, and you can't do this in 5 minutes or the 10 minutes. You have to really marinate in this. What are the issues? Just go with that for the moment. What are the issues beyond like the SIFE thing? What are the issues beneath it? Go beneath the symptoms. You're looking at symptoms. Go to the issues behind it that drive it. Why is that person coughing? Because the person has pneumonia. I want to alleviate the coughing. I give them cough medicine, but that doesn't stop the pneumonia. So slow down. You got plenty of time. You got 2 months to do this, and really play this through. Now I'm going to leap a little bit more. I'm going a little fast with you because I'm getting a kick out of not a kick. I'm enjoying your thinking, and don't go any further than this, because you see number 2 says design a needs assessment.
Right.
Mhm.
Nobody knows how to do a needs assessment. I'm going to show you next week.
Okay.
Don't even think about it, because the needs assessment really tells you what the issues are. Why is the person coughing? And then the good doctor is looking at all of the symptoms and then trying to get underneath the symptoms. Well, how do you do that? You do that through any number of strategies to get at it. Now, for example, I'll give you one for both of you for the moment. Maybe you, and I'm not saying this is a good strategy. I'm just saying it's a strategy. You go to the kids and you say, how's it working out for you? And the kids say, like Jack said, I'm not learning anything. I can't follow the teacher because I can't even, the teacher's talking English and I'm talking, Spanish. So that's one needs assessment strategy. Another assessment is, to go to the parent to look at the data, the hard data. Where are the issues that are kicking out? But don't go much farther than that, because what you'll do is you'll paint yourself into a corner too quickly. But first, you got to get your arms around the problem. Now, I'm going to teach you a quick trick. I'm going to do it with the whole class too, but not today because I realize it's not enough time. But I'm going to teach you guys a trick that the other group won't have yet. You ready? It's called root cause analysis. Okay. All right. And there's many ways to get at root causes. Again, that's why is the person coughing approach. You ready? Here it comes. And I'm not going to do it justice. If you look at that futures-based change leadership PowerPoint that I'm going to email everybody tomorrow, you'll see a section in there about something called the 5 whys, WHY. And it's a Japanese business technique, believe it or not. And here it is. The belief is that if you ask a why question 5 times, smartly, not just stupid why questions, you'll get to the root cause. Now, it makes people's hair hurt. It's very uncomfortable. Try it with your students or your kids to why did you throw the toy across the floor? I don't know. Why don't you know? I don't know. Why don't you know? I was mad. Why were you mad? Mary looked at me cross-eyed. Why did Mary look at you cross-eyed? Because she wanted to make me mad. Why did Mary want to make you mad? Because she knows she can get me, she likes to make me mad. That's the root cause. Why were you late from school today? I didn't wake up on time. Why didn't you wake up on time? The alarm clock didn't go off. Why didn't it go off? It wasn't set. Why wasn't it set? My mother and father were having another argument. Hello. That'd be the root cause. Patricia, you a counselor, or I'm thinking of somebody else?
Literacy teacher for 7 through 12.
Okay, well, you get this too, because you say, why don't they get initial consonant B? I don't answer the question, but I'm driving at, what we don't do is we skip over this. We know the answer. We're all master's degrees. We're all too smart. But we don't know the answer because we don't listen to each other and to get at the root causes. Only when you solve the root, I'm going to do this next week for everybody. Only when we know what the root causes are can we come up with the strategies that you gave me 2 strategies. Jack and you, Patricia, both had a strategy. They're fine. They're probably great strategies, but they may not hit the root cause. If they do, that's great. But if they don't, it's because we didn't meet the needs assessment premise. Okay.
Do we pose that the root cause into a question then on
Yes.
or a statement that that the students should be receiving?
Try it tomorrow. Patricia, I promise you, money back guarantee. Whatever you pay for the cause, I'll give you the money back. Ask them a root cause. Ask them 5 whys about anything they're reading. They're gonna they'll hate you in the beginning because it's try it tonight when you have dinner. I mean, people don't like this, but in the end, it's if you give people a chance to marinate and like lay back a little bit, they'll tell you what's really at the bottom. What's the message behind the music? So what you're going to write in this section 1 when you later on, but not today, you're not ready for that, is you're going to say, we're going to use root cause identification strategies to get to the real issues that are at hand here. The issue it's on surface is whatever you said 5 minutes ago, but what's underneath it is what the issue is.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
good job.
Hey, Professor, before you go,
Yes,
I think Jessica Crowley's supposed to be in this group.
yeah, I don't know. I thought I put it here, but I don't know where she is. Thank you. I'll take care of it next time.
No worries.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good evening.
You as well.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
I knew you would wait for me. Breakout room 2 left me, and they
Yeah.
missed my wisdom.
We were just wrapping up. We just finished discussing we went over what the project is, what the expectations are for it, kind of started spitballing some ideas that we each have individually. And then we decided that what we'll do is we'll share each other on what we're working on so that when we get together next week into this part, we'll all have our part 1s done so that we can share what our thought process was and get feedback from one another for
That's
part
great.
1.
That's great. You're not going to be done with 1 straight away. Just know that.
No, yeah,
Remind me about addressing this at the beginning of of class after we do the group assignment. I mean, just remind to say, Dr. B, root causes
Dr. B, root causes.
after we do the 15-minute thing.
Okay, so after the 15-minute breakout.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
Okay, thanks so
All
much.
right. Have a good week. Thank you.
You too. My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.